Welcome back, everyone. This is part 2 of our Week 2 live chat for Finance 4443 Financial Policy and Strategy. I'm Dr. Mark Dennis, and in this session, we're diving deeper into capital budgeting techniques. As always, you can reach me via email or phone anytime you have questions. What is capital budgeting? This is the process of planning and evaluating investments in long-term assets, projects, or purchases that are expected to generate cash flows beyond 1 year. These decisions involve significant expenditures and have a lasting impact on the company's direction and financial health. Accordingly, it's critical that we get these right. Project classifications. Capital projects generally fall into 2 categories. First, we have replacement decisions, deciding whether or not we should buy new equipment to replace old ones and maintain current operations. Second, we have expansion decisions, investing in assets that can help grow the business, expand business capacity, or break into new markets. We also classify projects based on how they interact. Independent projects don't affect each other's cash flows, so we can accept multiple projects if they all meet our criteria. Mutually exclusive projects, however, compete with each other. We can only pick one, so we have to choose the one that creates the most value. Net present value. Now we shift to our first technique, net present value, or NPV. This is the sum of the present values of all cash inflows and outflows. The rule is straightforward. If NPV is greater than 0, the project is financially acceptable. It adds value to the firm. Let's compare the net cash flows of 2 hypothetical projects, Project S and Project L. We use these cash flows to compute net present value and then evaluate which project provides greater value. Consider the cash flow timelines for Project S and Project L. Here the cash flow timing is illustrated so we can clearly see the inflows and outflows across both project lifespans. This helps us understand when we get our money back, as well as how the timing impacts value for each project. Let's consider the net present value for Project S. Here we calculate the NPV of Project S using a discount rate of 10% and the projected cash flows from the project. Once we determine the net present value of each inflow and subtract the cost, we then get net present value. The result? Project S has a positive net present value, meaning it does create value. The rationale is that a positive NPV increases shareholder wealth. Among mutually exclusive projects, we go with the one with the higher NPV because it adds the most value. Using the NPV method to determine which projects should be accepted. When we run the numbers in this example, and find these positive NPV results as shown here for projects S and L. If these are mutually exclusive projects, we choose project S. This is because S has the more attractive or the larger NPV. If the projects are independent, we could accept both projects since both of them add value as indicated by their positive net present value numbers. Let's move to our next technique, IRR, or internal rate of return. This is the rate of return the project earns if held for its entire life. The decision rule is this: accept the project if the internal rate of return exceeds the required rate of return for the investment in the project. We calculate internal rate of return by setting net present value to 0 and then solving for the discount rate. Pictured here, you see the formal expression used to calculate internal rate of return. It starts with the NPV equation set equal to 0. The present value of all future cash flows equals the initial investment. Notice the structure. Each cash flow is divided by 1 plus the internal rate of return raised to the appropriate power for its time period. This can be expressed in two ways. First, using the full net present value equation, where NPV equals CF sub 0 plus CF sub 1 over 1 plus the internal rate of return to the first power plus CF sub 2 over 1 plus the internal rate of return squared, and so on until CF sub n over 1 plus the internal rate of return raised to the nth power, all set equal to 0. Or alternatively, we can rearrange to isolate the initial outlay, CF sub 0, on the left-hand side, which represents the initial investment, as shown in the second formula. Because this equation cannot be solved algebraically, we typically use a financial calculator or a spreadsheet to compute internal rate of return. This should give you a tremendous sense of relief. The key decision rule remains the same. If internal rate of return is greater than the required return, which is often denoted by the variable R, then the project is considered acceptable. Let's consider the rationale and why the IRR method makes sense. If internal rate of return is greater than the required rate of return for the project, the excess return contributes to shareholder value. For example, if internal rate of return for the project is 13% and our requirement is only 10%, then the 3% margin benefits the owners. Now we look at the discounted payback for Project S. Based on our calculations, Project S pays back its cost in less than 4 years, which does make this an acceptable investment. Because the discounted payback is under 4 years, and that time frame is within the expected project life, we can conclude that Project S is financially viable. In practice, most firms do not rely on one method alone. Instead, they use a combination of net present value, internal rate of return, and discounted payback period to make better informed capital budgeting decisions. This multi-method approach reduces risk and improves decision-making quality. This wraps up our walkthrough of capital budgeting techniques. Remember, these tools are essential for making smart investment decisions that affect a company's future. As always, if you have any questions or want to go over anything in more detail, feel free to shoot me a message via text or email. See you online.